Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1325, written by Jwas, the Celtic Wolf. The intriguing case of the invisible car. Last weekend, one of our friends went out of town for a few days, and so my husband and I went and looked after her cats in house, as she does the same for us. Well, she also needs some work done in her house, so we were doing that also while she was away. She left us the key to her garage so that we can take what we might need to do the work. First couple of days all was fine. Her car was gone and we figured that she left it at the house with her traveling companion and she would drive it back when she returned. We went in and pulled out a ladder and realized one day that we needed the bigger ladder that was hooked up onto the wall of the garage. Now, where the ladder was hooked, the space was empty, as that was where her car was parked. We took the ladder down and did some repairs before putting it back, locking the garage up before we went home. The next day, we went back with some tools to complete the job. I was down the driveway as my husband went into the garage. Turning to me confused, he told me to come up to the garage. I did, and looked at him with the same confused look. "That car was not here yesterday, or the day before, correct?" he asked me. No. I was just staring at the car. We went over various possibilities for this. She hadn't come home, as everything was still locked up at the house. We also thought that her companion's husband drove it back for her, so she didn't have to after the long trip. We called her and left a message with her, but she never responded. We knew it was gone, as we moved freely around the garage and even swung the ladders around as we used them. A couple of days after that, our friend came home and brought us thank you gifts and talked about her trip. Then we asked her about the car. It was her turn to look confused. She had left the car in the garage the whole time, and she was the only one with the key. And the car was intact, no evidence of any break-ins or such. It was impossible, because we were in there walking freely around. We all came to the laughing conclusion that either the husband and I were losing our minds or she was, or that maybe her husband, who passed on at least 10 years ago, was playing a joke on us. But as God is my witness, that car was not there the first couple of days. Case on file 1325. The intriguing case of the invisible car. If the car wasn't there from both of your perceptions, but your friend always knew she left it back home, then it's hard to know what happened. If you were both stuck in an alternate universe for a few days, then the work you did on the house wouldn't have happened at all. So in short, the house would have been a disorder, a total mess, her cats wouldn't have been taken care of, and so on, because you both weren't in that universe, where the car was left there. Did the car somehow vanish? Truly go to a different universe? I guess it makes some sense. If humans can transpose between universes and then come back, it's a DOP returning, just with the returning twist. I guess it's some kind of portal that just took the car. But then you ask yourself, why did it just take the car, not the cement under the car or the roof over the garage? It had to be proportionally sized exactly just for the car? Very odd. Bonus file written by Anonymous. The ghostly echoes of Eddie and Jim. This just happened last evening. I was coming down the staircase and thought that I could hear my husband shuffling around in the kitchen. I called out, "Eddie, is that you?" I heard a familiar male voice say, "Yes." As I walk into the kitchen, I see our cat, Tony, sitting on the floor staring towards the kitchen stove. I look around and don't see my husband, but I hear his tractor running and moving around outside. I immediately say, "Sorry, wrong Eddie." And the same voice says, "Oh." I walked outside to confirm that my husband was indeed on his tractor and told him what just happened. We shared a knowing look and went on about our evening. My deceased father-in-law was named Eddie too. Tony was his cat up until his death, and he passed away in the kitchen by the stove. It was his voice I heard. About a month ago, I heard him calling my name while my husband was at work. Sometimes I can smell faint whiffs of his pipe tobacco or objects that belong to him mysteriously move around. Other things have happened that I mentally filed away as being my best friend Jim. He passed away in our house when I was 4 years old. He was an elderly man that my parents were very close to. He was grandfatherly and the best friend I ever had. Our house was owned by my husband's family, but rented to Jim and his family. After they passed away, my in-laws acquired it. Then, after my father-in-law passed away and my mother-in-law remarried, we inherited the house and apparently their spirit inhabitants as well. I find it all strange, but not creepy. Case notes for the bonus file, the ghostly echoes of Eddie and Jim. For some reason, it puts a big smile on my face reading that last line. Strange, yes, but not creepy. That's the truth. These places we live in, they collect human histories, imprints of our souls, our essences. If they were good people, good imprints, then those imprints will carry the same energy with them, and they'll be positive. We have ghosts, we have spirits that can linger on sometimes, and almost all the time, they're just repeating their pattern, and the pattern was positive, or at least neutral. Maybe they're just doing something in the kitchen or something. It's not positive exactly, but it's not malicious at all. They're not going to turn on the food processor when you have your hand in there unclogging something, in all those movies we see. I don't think that's going to happen very often. Bonus file written by Inuka21. In the Pescadero woods, deer are more than deer. I feel stupid for even writing this out, but I feel like it needs to be told in case someone can give an explanation. A few years ago, my boyfriend and I went hiking in the Pescadero woods, Northern California. We ended up getting lost and not getting there till about 3:30. It closed at 5, so we decided to smoke a little before the end walk. Mind you, this is nothing new to me, and I've been smoking for the previous 6 years constantly. So we began our hike, and there's multiple trails leading to an abundance of hiking options. Right away, I feel completely wrong. I have an overwhelming sense of dread to the extent that I can't even put out words and explain it to my boyfriend. Over the course of an hour, we end up at a bench. It doesn't matter what trail we take, how far we walk. Again and again, we come to the same bench. At this point, I start expressing how the situation doesn't make sense, and I would like to go back now. We walk a little further and see a water fountain. My boyfriend runs up to it, and I'm about 20 feet behind him and turn to face another trail. When I look down this trail, I see a deer about 15 feet in front of me. I put that in parentheses because this was anything but. I've been trying to find the words since then on how to explain the situation, but the best I can do is this. I looked at this thing, and it was like my mind was telling me it was a deer, but every gut feeling and internal reaction was convinced I was looking at something that wanted me to think it was a deer. Was it wrong? I could not honestly comprehend what I was seeing. Again, it was 15 feet away, so that should not have been an issue at all. After staring for about 2 minutes, and it was motionless, I called my boyfriend over because at this point I honestly thought I was hallucinating. Nothing made sense on what I was seeing. I called him over and he got to the trailhead and I said, "What do you see?" He responded, "I think it's a deer, but it's not right." Then he proceeds to walk forward towards it. When I say my heart dropped, I kid you not, I freaked out. I grabbed him by the shirt and told him to walk to the car and not turn around. On the way home, I asked him what he saw and he said, it was supposed to be a deer, but it wasn't. Case notes for the bonus file. In the Pescadero woods, deer are more than deer. I've heard that in the Bible and other religious texts, angels are described as otherworldly beings that cannot be comprehended by the human eye and mind. I don't know if this entity that you saw was a true angel, or some other kind of being, or a guardian angel that couldn't take possession of any human or animal nearby, so it manifested as a form you'd know? Yet while both your minds saw the deer, the form it was trying to project, subconsciously you both knew it was something else, completely unearthly, not meant to be there, in that form. It was an abstract, something your brains can't comprehend, can't understand, not meant to be seen by them. Why did it manifest then? Maybe there was a danger up ahead, and the only way to warn you was to manifest as something that would make you turn back. And now time for the quote of the day. Computer games don't affect kids. I mean, if Pac-Man affected us as kids, we'd all be running around in darkened rooms, munching pills and listening to repetitive music. Marcus Brigstock. I think everything we do affects us to some degree. And obviously we don't take after a game exactly. kids can play violent games and they're not going to go out and it's not going to trigger them into violence necessarily. In fact, there's an argument that it could release some violent tendencies. And of course, games aren't just violent. There's other things. Sometimes games can be educational, just in their application. As a lucky accident. For instance, when I was playing old school RuneScape as a teenager, it's basically how I learned English, just at least typing it out. I didn't speak it while typing it, but that's how I learned the grammar and syntax and everything, and the words themselves. But I also learned a bit about economics, because in that game it was an MMORPG where it's always a persistent world and people can trade what they mine and create and craft. You learn how to trade, how to bargain. You learn about scams, all that kind of stuff. So games can have a lot of value. And I think people often find themselves in one camp of extreme to the other. And I guess they could apply to anything in life. But with games especially, you have one camp that thinks that they spoil the child or turn them crazy. And another camp that maybe becomes addicted. That's not good either. You want that happy medium balance. Balance is always what I come back to, I guess, but it's true. You can have a bit of everything, just stay within reason, that's all. And then you'll get a ton of value out of it. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.